At one point, I'd sent an email to Audi Brooklyn saying that I would accept the vehicle as is. And I know they're going to bring this up as a defense, so I want to bring up that email and address it preemptively here. Hi, Mark. Good to talk to you. I was thinking about the sales manager's motivation to wholesale/auction the RX350. The vehicle suddenly wouldn't start, and the mechanic says it needs a new battery and a belt. So the repair expenses seemingly make it not profitable. Seems there's a basic vehicle warranty in New York State, and I've got the lemon law here, and I'm going to cover this in a different video. Any warranty issues would make the trade even less profitable. If these are the main concerns, I'd be willing to accept the vehicle with the existing battery and belt issues, and accept the vehicle as is with no warranty, and fix any issues here in New York on my own. The price should be lowered accordingly. Of course, it wasn't. Hopefully, that should address any concerns. I fixed my own vehicles for decades. You can see some pictures of my old 1996 Honda Accord from a few years ago here. It's 29 years old now with 284,000 miles. Since 250,000 miles, I've had a lot of repairs. There's a certain dollar expense, and the time factor is in the many dozens of hours, not just doing the repairs, but also finding which parts to get and how to do the repairs. These days, I just want to drive, not repair, and expect that the RX350 will allow me to do just that. Let's talk soon. So you can see clearly from my email here, from what they've told me, I expect there's only a battery and a belt issues, and anything else is basically minor, right? And that I could, fix on here, and that, I've had a lot of problems with the Honda, and by buying the Lexus, I would say that would be an end to repairs, and I could just drive the vehicle. But, they did not tell me that it wasn't just a belt or a battery. It was also, the vehicle had been in an accident. There were major suspension issues under the vehicle. You got $3,000 in bushings to repair there. That the water pump had been, is leaking, and that's leaking coolant. That the transmission seal has been pushed out, and it's leaking transmission fluid. That there's potential battery issues, and they never told me that they had never detailed the vehicle. You could see how filthy it is too. So they had always intended to send it to auction, but they saw a way that when I sent this, hey, let's pull a fast one and let's sell it to Roger. And of course, he's halfway across the continent, so he can't send the vehicle back to easily, cheaply to New York to be fixed. So again, all this is part of, again, all the deception, the lies of omission, the misrepresentation, the deception, and the fraud. So, and just to review the mechanical repairs and the collision repairs that I got. Here's the full size, the full sheet for the Corwin tote on the mechanical repairs. This is zoomed in. We're looking at, just for the suspension, the control arm bushings, we're looking at over $3,000. The water pump replacement about $1,750. The axle seal, we're looking at $722 plus the flush, about $339, $340, over $1,000 for that. And altogether, the mechanical repairs are over about $62, $65. Getting to the collision, here's the full sheet, and zoomed in, we're looking at just under $4,000 for the collision repairs. Combined, this is over $10,000. So this is not just a belt and just a battery. So just to talk about that link that I mentioned about the Honda, this is some pictures I've taken after I'd washed and waxed the vehicle. And I've had a lot of issues, fixing the vehicle since 250,000 miles. I mean, this goes back, if I looked, I could go all the way back to 2020. But just to give you an example, from 2024 and 2025, some of the things I've had to repair, the power steering pump and the hose, you need to be changed. That was about $700. The suspension, the front sway bar links were giving me issues, so I had changed those. There was a lot of oil leaks. They're coming. This is why I wanted a newer vehicle with no oil leaks. A lot of oil was coming from the oil pressure sensor. Had that changed, right? The resonator before the muffler, that was giving me issues. So that was very loud. Had that changed, that was about $700. The battery I changed. Had a lot of issues with the rear brakes. I kept changing the calipers, and they kept seizing. Certainly the left rear one here kept seizing, especially in the wintertime, as soon as it got cold, and it was very, very strange, and this wheel was dragging, and it's been a long story on that, long soap opera here. So it was replacing these rear brakes, buffed out the headlights. This was done. This picture was taken before I did that. There's been rust on the fenders. You can't really see it too well because I do take care of it, and I don't like that. The starter motor. The first time it went, I had it changed it with a rebuilt, and then it only lasted a number of months, and then I had to, self-destruct it again. So I made sure to buy a new one, and this put me out for a few weeks. I was riding my bicycle to work at that point, right? The front upper control arms were giving me issues, right? Originally how this started, I wanted to get the power steering boots changed. So they said, okay, well, we wanted a suspension. They said, oh, well, no, it was different. Well, you had to change the upper control arms. So I did that. And then in 2025, got the early 2025, got an alignment, and they said, oh, we got to change your rear camber control arm. So we did that, right, and had it changed again. Summer 2025, we changed the driver's window regulator, right? And again, I'm dealing with, I had this parking brake cable, so I figured, okay, let's get that fixed once and for all. So I had the parking brake cable changed for the left rear wheel, and did that in the summertime. Then the brake light switch. The lights just wouldn't go off, so I had that changed, right? I had the oil pan gasket changed because of the leaks. And here's some more pictures here. Since it froze again, I'm still having issues with, the parking brake cable, and again, the left rear wheel was seizing. So, overall, I'm pleased with it, but I'm just really, really tired of the repairs, and that was the point that I wanted to make. That I just don't want any repairs. And if I were to get the Lexus, I'm expecting that this would be an end to repairs, and I could just drive the vehicle, unlike the Honda here that's getting old. And they led me to believe that was the case, but in fact there's far more repairs with the Lexus, and a lot of those I can't do by myself because you have to have a lift, you have to get under the vehicle, and so that was the point I was making by including the link to these pictures, is that, I expect that, by buying the Lexus, there'll be no more repairs, but in fact, there's far more.